Hey guys, so let's just get right into it. We are talking about going no contact with parents. So all these parents are like, why isn't my child talking to me? And I did the best I could and yada, yada, yada. But don't listen to me. Listen to what these people had to say on Tickety Talk. And then I'll come at the end and I'll tell you what I think. And be warned early on, this is not a place. I'm done with the nice stuff. I'm not going to be calling anyone out explicitly because my intention is not to hurt anyone. But if you are sensitive to this topic and you're the parent whose child isn't talking to them, you might be offended by the end of this video. But if you are, that's your problem.
Don't let these grown ass kids and kids that you tried to help and tried to raise and tried to do for make you feel guilty for doing the best that you can. They can go to hell. All you parents with entitled kids, shout out all the parents this morning that did their very best. Make sure that your kids have everything they need, from toiletries to clothes, sports, and back and forth to basketball practice, football practice, trying to get dinner, trying to wash, fold clothes, and then got braces for, and then worked and scrapped and worked all night and worked extra jobs to do what you can for your kids, only for them to grow up and turn out the way some of them have turned out, making the decisions that they make, and you try to teach them the right way to do things. Only for your kids you make sacrifices for to grow up, tell you that you wasn't there for me and you didn't do enough stuff for me and you didn't do this and you didn't do that. Some of them just choose bad. Some of them choose to smoke weed. Some of them choose to drink. Some of them choose to go left when you say go right, just because they want to do something different and they want to do what they want to do. I want to free you today and let you know that you are awesome. And if don't nobody appreciate you and know the struggle, I do. And I understand. And I just want to empower you today to not feel guilty about having to work. I don't care what these damn kids say. No matter what your situation is with your kids or whatever, they start feeling that way and getting older, or somebody get in their head and start talking them against you, that you did everything you could do to be the best parent you can be. And we're not talking about perfect, because it ain't no perfect parent. Now, I know I'm not perfect. I just want you to feel confident and go to bed, and you don't owe these kids nothing.
Okay, so first and foremost, let me start out by saying, I think that each generation has been conditioned to believe different things. So the previous generations were conditioned to believe that if you do your best is good enough. Okay, so they probably heard growing up in school, this is just what I'm thinking, that just try your best, just do the best you can do, be the best you can be, and that's good enough. It's not, that's a darn lie. That's a lie, because the best me I could be in kindergarten is very different from the best me I can be today and the best me I can be further on. And I also know that just because I did my best, it doesn't mean that I did good enough. Okay, your best might be a 70% to someone who's expecting 100. So just because you did the best you could do, it doesn't mean you did a good job. A small company that has one person best is going to be very different than a global conglomerate with millions of employees. The best is not enough in the market sometimes. So just because you feel like in your heart of hearts you did the best you could do as a parent, it doesn't mean that you did a good job. Period. And you probably were traumatized, because the further we go back, years and years and years across the board, regardless of age, race, or creed, whatever, gender, whatever, the further you go back, the more trauma that you find. So I can understand that. Okay? And everyone's going to hurt you. It's a part of life. The people that do right by you are going to hurt you, and the people that do good by you are going to hurt you. That's just a part of life. But the difference is those people can learn. The problem with certain parents and people is that you don't effing learn. Okay? Because I have had to apologize to my siblings, because this one time, I always go back to this story. One of my siblings had a YouTube profile that I was using because it was the one that was already logged in. And he came to me like, yo, I'm upset that you use my YouTube. And I was like, if you don't get out of my face, I don't care about your freaking YouTube channel, like your YouTube thing, if you don't get out of here. And so then I thought about it though. And I was like, that was so inappropriate how I handled that, because at the time I was stressed out. There was so much going on. And I'm like, you're coming to me because your YouTube, because this is why he was upset, because since I watched videos, YouTube was now recommending videos on his page that he didn't want to watch. So I was like, are you effing kidding me? If you don't get out of my face with that, to be honest. And though, once I paused and I thought about it, I realized that to me, it wasn't a big deal, because it's not a big deal to me. But to him and his life, from his vantage point and his perspective, it was a very big deal. It was a big enough deal that he felt compelled to express how he felt. And I want children to feel comfortable enough to feel compelled to express how they feel in a respectful way. Because he wasn't disrespectful. He was just direct and clear in what he did not appreciate. So I took him out, whatever. We got some wings. We're sitting down, yada, yada. And I'm like, look, I wanted to talk to you about the YouTube thing. And before I even get started, because he started saying, oh, no, it's not a big deal. It's fine, it's fine. Because the way that I reacted was visceral. And so he took it as, oh my gosh, me expressing myself and telling you that I'm displeased with something is a bad thing. And I don't want anybody that knows me, whether it's the children that I work with in my confidence coaching, or if it's my sibling or my cousin or whoever, I don't want any child around me to feel like if they express themselves that their opinion doesn't matter, because then when they grow up, because the purpose of being a child is to grow up. So then when they grow up, they're going to be doormats, or they're not going to know how to express themselves. And then you wonder why your child lets their boss do X, Y, and Z. It's because they never had an opportunity to even express their displeasures to you. So why would they go and express their displeasures to anyone else? All right, let's clock that T, baby. Whatever that clickety clack clock that stuff is. You almost made me cuss. Anyway, so I was like, no. Listen. I just have to say this, because to me, because I wanted him to understand where I was coming from my perspective, with like having all these other things. He doesn't understand the concept of bills. He doesn't understand the concept of going to work, because school and work are different things. Like, there's no way he could understand the concept of those things to even remotely understand what I was stressed out about. And it wasn't his fault, and he didn't deserve that reaction. So I wanted to make it very clear that, look, from my perspective, the YouTube thing is not a big deal to me because of other things that are going on. However, I can understand to you it is a big deal. And so I just want to apologize for disrespecting you, because I understand that meant a lot to you, and I appreciate, I'm not saying it verbatim, but this is what I said, like, thank you for bringing it to my attention, and it won't happen again. I apologize. It won't happen again. And I made it very clear that I understood that I disrespected him. I didn't understand at the time because it was like YouTube, but in his child mind, it was a very big deal. So I understood why he felt the way he felt. He did a little like, oh, and I clearly apologized. And then we had a great meal. And that was it. So the point that I'm saying is, that's why I say if you get offended by this, that's an oh well for you, because you're missing the key point. Because you're so used to people that get offended quickly, you're so used to being criticized, because likely the people that raised you criticized you your whole life. So you're so used to being criticized that you can't even understand when it's constructive. You don't even recognize the difference between constructive spaces where you can evolve and grow and being attacked, because you're so used to being attacked and you have to fight and defend your whole life. But this is not one of those places. I'm not just out here trying to hurt people's feelings. I'm out here trying to get people to look in the effing mirror, because you can evolve past where you are, instead of being hateful to the child that you already were hateful to, because you were having a hard time in your life and you're having the repercussions of your actions and what you did in your life, and now you're angry at everybody, so it's being projected onto the people that are weaker than you, even though you know what that feels like. So you're mad at yourself for being that person to them that you were afraid of, that you hated. You're angry at yourself, and instead of doing something about it, you say that they must be the problem, they must be bad, they must be the one with the bad stuff going on, they must be the issue. It must be them. There's no way it could be me. There's no way that I could be the person that is so horrible and this and this and that, and I did a bad job, because then I have to look in the mirror and have to recognize that maybe such and such was right when they said I wasn't worth nothing. Maybe such and such was right when they said that I wasn't going to be nothing. Maybe such and such. That's not what it means. That's not what it means. It just means that in that particular area you can grow. Period. We all had to grow. I had to grow. There's been so many times where I've had to come up and apologize. There's been so many times where I look back at my life and say, oh my gosh, I would never do that again. But you know what? I know I know though that is proof of growth. Because if I can look back at a time that I made a poor decision and say, well, if I was in that position again, I wouldn't do that, and then not do it, then that's proof that I've done better. That's proof that I've evolved. So you can either look at things as excuses or reasons. You can look at things as reasons why you're horrible or excuses for why you can't do something, or you can look at it for a reason why you got to get it. For an excuse, excuses are the tools of the weak and incompetent, built upon monuments of nothingness, and those who specialize in excuses seldom amount to anything other than excuses. Okay, so you really gotta come from a space and a place where you can recognize that perhaps your best wasn't enough. Okay? And perhaps because of the fact that your child didn't go through the same traumas that you went through, perhaps they really are different. So just because you were okay with your mama or your daddy disrespecting you, it doesn't mean that they're okay with that. And you have to be able to acknowledge the fact that perhaps you did hurt them. I can acknowledge the fact that in that situation, and I know in other situations, I have hurt all of my siblings one way or another. I can acknowledge that I have hurt my parents. I can acknowledge that. But the difference is that once I acknowledge it, I improve and I don't do it again. That's the difference. That's the effing difference. You can say all you want to say. You can say, but you on here making videos talking about bye, see you later to your children, and you want to sit up here, you don't know what you did. You don't understand why they don't want to be around you when they're in pain, and you on the internet putting all your business out there and then calling them out their name, calling them B words, all these people cussing and carrying on. I almost didn't even post this video because I'm like, I don't even be cussing up on here. But now I got these grown people that are really hurt children on the inside coming on here, attacking young people, attacking their children, and then wondering why your children don't want to be around you. You gotta wonder why. It don't make sense. So it definitely don't make dollars. You are either putting in or you're taking away. And you have to be able to acknowledge, and I was telling my cousin this, you have to be able to acknowledge that just because you didn't intentionally hurt your child doesn't mean you didn't do it. Period. And it's okay to admit that you hurt somebody else. Because that's how you evolve. That's how you grow. That's how you can recognize. It doesn't mean you're a bad person, because we're taught in school that, oh, if you hurt someone, you're bad, you're this or that. No. If you hurt somebody else, that's a reflection of who you are, and you can evolve past it. You don't have to walk around feeling ashamed because you said something. I remember when I was in elementary school, I had just discovered on the South Park episode, I just discovered what a ginger was. And I had this teacher who I really, 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 really liked. And it was in middle school. I'm going to be honest. This was like such a cringe story. But I saw on South Park, there was like a Kick a Ginger Day. That's literally what was on South Park in my young impressionable mind. So I asked him about it. But it wasn't coming from a space of... But even now, I felt so bad because he was, and still is, his name was Mr. Butler at Mario Lordman Middle School, like the best social studies teacher ever. And I remember when I said it, I wasn't trying to be rude. I was just like, I was crazy too, like a playful kid or whatever. But he said, yeah, you're getting this close to being disrespectful. And I was like, because I never wanted to disrespect Mr. Butler. He was that amazing of a teacher. So I get up and I'm like, oh man. So I go up to him and I apologize. I'm like, look, I am so sorry. I didn't know, I didn't even know what a ginger was. I literally just found that out today from a South Park episode. And I'm so sorry. And it wasn't even a full episode because I wasn't even watching South Park. Somehow this clip got its way on my space, but I wasn't looking for it. I didn't even really know what South Park was. So I apologized and whatever. And I felt horrible. I felt so bad because I did not want to be the reason why Mr. Butler was hurt. I didn't want to admit to myself that I was the reason for his suffering because I loved him that much. He was a wonderful, wonderful teacher. So instead of berating me or saying, you should have known better, like there's some people that I've gone no contact would have, he said, but you know what? You apologized and you owned up to it. And I appreciate that. And I was still, even now I'm getting emotional about it because I did not want to hurt his feelings. And so then he was like, but you know what? You apologized and you owned up to it. He didn't try to make me feel bad about it. He didn't try to make me explain my apology. He just accepted it and recognized and told me, like, you saw what you did wrong, you apologized, and you improved. And that's all you can do. So I'm proud of you for that. And thank you. And we had no more problems. And, I wore that with a shame because I felt like, well, I hurt him. So, that's bad on me. I'm a bad person because that's what we're taught, that bad people hurt people. But no, hurt people hurt people. Everybody hurts. Everybody hurts. Everybody's going to hurt you, especially when you're evolving. I was in freaking middle school. And some of you are emotionally middle schoolers. So it is what it is. So you can relate. So, but he reacted differently. He responded because, to be frank, it just is what it is. Everyone else reacted. Everyone else around me was in reaction because they were in survival mode because of their own traumas that they were working with. And that's okay to admit. It's okay to say that because it's the truth. Everybody wants to hide and act like everything's perfect. It's not. Everybody's going through stuff. Everybody's been through stuff. Everyone's done stuff they're ashamed of. But like as Dr. Seuss said, those who care don't matter and those who matter don't care. And as Florence Scovel Shinn says, I'm wide awake to my good. I never miss a trick. Period. So that's what I'm saying. Like if you're offended by this, it's good to be offended. Sometimes you gotta be offended. Shoot. Or else, because the time that I made the biggest evolutionary jumps is when I was offended by something. Because if you're offended, it's because you have a weak spot there. That's a weakness in you. When you're feeling upset and angry, it's because you are weak somewhere. And it's okay to say that. It's the truth. But you don't have to be weak there. You can evolve past it and be like, okay, you know what? I know this thing I got to work on. But instead of like, trying to fix everything at once, I'm going to grow into this. I'm not going to react. I'm just going to respond because that interaction changed everything for me. That interaction changed how I viewed things completely. And so when it was my turn, like when I had an interaction with children or whatever, I did the same thing. I'm like, look, you apologize. Let's talk about it. Let's work it out. Why did you get to that space? Why did you feel that way? Why did you say this thing? Why did this? Okay, so this is coming from this. Okay, let's work through it. Because you got to be the person you wish you had for someone else. Doesn't mean that your parents didn't do a good job or a bad job. Doesn't mean your parents did a bad job. Like, let's just be real. You might have had turd for parents, to be honest. You might have had, because let's just keep it real. Just because somebody laid down for a passionate night, it doesn't mean that they are now suddenly homemaker. Hitler was a parent. How many unalivers, whatevers, were parents? How many assault victims were victimized by their parents? So to sit up here and say that just because you are somebody's parent, that they have to love, cherish, and respect you is a crock of bull-ish. And I don't care. One of my relatives, one of the ones that was always hurting me growing up. And like, when I say hurting, I don't want it to sound like some real sinister, evil stuff, like some violent, like that's not what I'm talking about. Okay. I just want to be very clear there, but hurt can mean different things. So for this context, hurting is like more emotional, psychological nonsense. And so this relative told me, love is unconditional. That's stupid. Love is unconditional. Toxic love is unconditional. My authentic love is conditional. Okay? I have a baseline love and appreciation for all of the creatures in this thing we call life because it's a beautiful life. Shout out to Chuck Brown, okay? But I have a baseline level of love and appreciation for all of the creatures in this planet. How the F ever, comma. Okay? My love, or respectful love, is very conditional. Because it took a lot to get here. So even the meditating Indians from Sudarshan Kriya with specifically Guru Dev, they taught me, protect your peace by any means necessary. I'm going to say that again. Protect your peace by any means necessary. One more time. Protect your peace by any means necessary. And so if that means that I gotta cut a toxic relative off, then that's what it is. And then they justify it by saying, well, my such and such did worse to me, and I still talk to them. Well, then you must have been stupid or dumb. I don't know what to tell you. It was a different time. You needed to still talk to them. Maybe you guys had resources tied together. I don't know. But just because you did it doesn't mean I have to. Period. You made a choice to continue to put yourself in those toxic situations. So I'm making the choice to do the same. I had one relative while we were on good terms. Okay? We were on good terms. And this person told me, I didn't ask to be your X, Y, and Z. This is someone who's related to me, who's older than me, okay? I didn't ask. They said, I didn't want to be your X, Y, and Z. God forced me to, so now I'm gonna do it. But you barely even did it. So let's start there. And we were on good terms when this happened. And I see myself, this person was a very nitpicker or get back. And I see myself sometimes perhaps getting in that trap of doing that to someone else because that was what was done to me. But in cutting this person off, it has honestly helped me cut off those patterns and I can recognize them more because I'm not around that anymore. I'm not around anybody anymore who detracts or takes away from me because I believe fully this is just what it is. We came here by ourselves. We're going to leave here by ourselves, one way or the other. And the thing is that I believe in effectiveness and efficiency, period. I got things I want to do. I got people I want to be around. I got life experiences I want to experience. And so you are either contributing to that or you are taking away from it. And I don't have time or tolerance for anyone who's taking away. And some people say, oh, well, that's selfish. Oh, well, if that's your definition, then, kudos to you. Okay. And if that's your definition, then, that's your definition and that's fine. But that's not how I view it. I view selfishness as being a detractor. I view selfishness as trying to bring other people down because you feel so low and so unworthy that you have to, remind people who you are. You have to exert your authority because you really have none. Brother Panic said that the biggest thug in the room is often is the scaredest. And I agree. Because what's understood doesn't have to be explained, and what's explained is clearly not understood. So if you don't even know who you are, you have to put on this perpetrator fraud and try to be all big and bad, then fine, it is what it is. You're going to get what you want. Because in that same interaction, that relative, after telling me that they didn't want to be X, Y, and Z to me, God forced them to, then they said, you know what? And while we were on good terms, if I never saw you or spoke to you again, I wouldn't even care. It would be like another day in my life. So now, you know what, MFer? You got what you asked for. And suddenly I'm freaking thriving. And now when I start to do those habits, I can recognize it because I'm not there anymore. I'm not around it. So instead of being in it, it's like the difference between being in the game and playing the game. Like you have a bird's eye view and you can see, oh, that's what it was. But while you were down here, it felt like you didn't know what was going on. So, you could call it whatever you want to call it. Okay? I had another relative kick her son out of the house and then get mad that he left. I remember arguing with another relative about it because this other relative called me and was like, yo, such and such kicked such and such out of the house and she's mad that he left and he's disrespecting her, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, first of all, why did she kick him out of the house if she didn't want him to leave? That doesn't even make any sense. Why would you kick him out of the house if you didn't want him to leave? What? Because to me, you tell me to get out, I'm gone. Bye. You got to tell me to get out once, and I'm out. I'm out that B. Quick. I'm gone. No. Because I know what it feels like to be somewhere where you're clearly not wanted. And I'm not doing that no more. None. It took a long time to get to this peace. And even the meditating Indians of Sudarshan Kriya home practice or Sudarshan Kriya yoga even say, protect your mind by any means necessary. Protect your peace by any means necessary. And I totally and vehemently agree. So to me, I don't care what the history was because a lot of the history is effed up. And once I cut that relative off, like I said, I've just been making better decisions because their influence is gone. I realized I don't have to have that situation. So not only am I improving in the way that I treat people, I'm improving on upon of what I will and will not tolerate. Okay? I don't because you know what? Like, I didn't take it from you. I ain't taking it from nobody. Matter of fact, it's on site. I'm not being nice to anybody anymore because the only time that I've ever been nice to people, I've always got stabbed in the back. I've always got blown up in the process. Or as the gypsy sister would say, I always got blued up. You know what I'm saying? Every time I have been nice to someone, I have regretted it. So I'm done being nice too. Because naturally, I'm not nice. I'm not a nice person naturally. I was indoctrinated and trained to be nice. But I'm not nice. And it's fine. I'm very, very sweet to those who deserve it. I'm very gentle and kind. I'm like Hawthorne to those who call Hawthorne, but I'm Sekhmet too. And that's okay. And I love that ish. Because I'm the type, like I had this, because the reason why you got to pull out your Sekhmet sometimes is because I was out the other day. And this man, like, I don't know what he thought. I don't know, like, he don't know who my mama is. So he's standing, literally staring at me. And at first I was like, nah, he's not staring at me. He's not. I look over and he is staring at me. He's staring at me so much that the other girl who's eating, looking up and looking at me. So I make a very like wide point to like look behind me to see like, what is going on here. And then he turns away. But then, it wasn't a crazy enough gesture because then this fool turns back around again and is looking at me again. And at this point, I'm like, oh, really? Oh, really? What you trying to do? You trying to intimidate me or something? Like, why are you staring at me? Like, outwardly, his whole body is facing me. So at this point, I'm like, you know what? I'm not finna act ignorant up in here. I'm not finna act ignorant, but you finna know that I see you. I'm finna embarrass you because you want to come up in here try to make me feel uncomfortable. No, my mama always said, if someone tries to make you feel uncomfortable, you make them feel uncomfortable. I'm not gonna be the only person uncomfortable up in this piece. Okay? I'm finna show you what's up. So then I take my phone out, right? I put like a video on and I like zoom in and I make it clear I'm looking at him. Then he's like start freaking out. And then I looked up and I started laughing. Look at this, like look at this. like I'm looking to see if he's staring at me for real. And I'm like, oh. And you know what? He turned on, he never looked at me again. So I didn't even have to get ignorant. But I let that effer know I'm crazier than you are, buddy. I'm crazier than you are. You might want to go. Because the thing is, like, if he wasn't up to anything nefarious, why would he care that I was being crazy? He turned his whole body around. He literally was facing me. So if I didn't out crazy him, who knows what he would have tried to done. But he realized, like, I'm crazier than you are, sir. I am crazier. And I got a glass cup with me. Come over here if you want to. We finna see what's gonna go down. Okay? But and I also had to like exude that energy too while I'm laughing at you, because I'm not afraid of you. I would, especially because of the build of this guy. Like, come on now. But he might have had a weapon. I don't know. But he had to know I'm crazier than you are. And I learned that from my mama. And what that has also done in cutting these toxic relatives off is that I realized I don't have to like get too crazy every time. I can do like some slick stuff. So only you and I know what's up. Well, that other girl knew what was up too, because she was outside watching the whole thing, snickering, as she should. But at the end of the day, like, since I've cut those people off, my life has improved. And so I'm going to keep it that way. So now, when I see people, parents up on there like, oh, I did the best I could, but maybe your best just wasn't good enough. And that's okay. And some relationships aren't forever. So just go forgive yourself and work on yourself and try to do better. And eventually, maybe they'll forgive you or maybe they won't. It's okay that your best just wasn't good enough. Because I can tell you, without my toxic relatives, my life is amazing. There are things that I want to improve upon, but I think I'm just an improving creature. I'm always expanding. So there's always going to be something I want to do better. But when I'm not around detractors, the better is amazing. Even the bad, the worst day that I've had recently is better than even the best day I had dealing with nonsense, if I'm being honest. So yeah, that's what I have to say. Oh, and if you was like, dang, yeah, her hair grew. Yes, baby, that is me and my mom products, We Unique World. You can look at the link in the description. But yes, child. Okay, hair so healthy it looks like a weave, because all hair is good hair, especially when it's healthy. Bye.